Federal Labor looks like they are going to jump towards the idea of making sure that criminal responsibility doesn't kick in until you are 14 years of age. The state government in Queensland has said that that is not their policy. However, that is the decision that several members of the party have had for some period of time. There is supposed to be a meeting of Attorneys General to decide whether criminal responsibility remains at 10 or whether it can get lifted up to 14. Susan, what's your thought about when criminal responsibility? Should it be the system we currently have, or should it be being lifted? Because it seems like a fairly blunt way of keeping people out of jail, which is just to simply claim what they're doing is not a crime. But what do you think?
Well, we know that regionally in Queensland, we are having a juvenile crime wave, and it is kids right across the state who have no scaling up of consequences. There's no breach of bail. There's nowhere for them to go after business hours. The police are tearing their hair out. I've walked in on a robbery here in Townsville at a petrol station. You're always trying to avoid juveniles stealing cars. It's just out of control. And Labor's problem is that they're trying to talk about age of consent when really the problem is that they've failed to have a series of appropriate pieces of legislation that allows kids to have proper boundaries and grow them up to be kids who are able to live in a normal society. That's just not happening. It is out of control in Queensland.
Yeah. David, my line on this is always that simultaneously parts of the left would say you have to raise criminal responsibility because it's not a fully formed mind, but somebody of the age of 10 or even younger apparently has a fully developed mind to be able to flip genders without parental involvement. They need to kind of pick a lane here, don't they?
Oh, look, I think I disagree with Susan on this. I mean, the idea of, children being held criminally liable who still have their baby teeth is, it just seems crazy to me. Of course, there's children that are causing harm in this group, this 10 to 14-year-old age group, but there has to be a better way than sending them through the criminal justice system. I've spoken to many experts on this issue. Usually these children are from backgrounds that have very bad environmental factors, multi-generational harm caused to them. Predominantly in Victoria, they're Aboriginal communities, and we need better ways of dealing with this, and putting them through the justice system is totally unacceptable. And I think there's a few ways that we can do this. One is through intensive treatment of these children, but secondly, through other things like removing some of these, non-violent offences that we're talking about, like drug possession. Like, people shouldn't be going through the criminal justice system for drug possession, whether they're criminals or adults.
But is the halfway
whether they're
point...
children or adults? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but David, is there a halfway point where there are certain crimes that have to have a custodial sentence? Because obviously, stealing a car when you're 12, and let's be honest, you don't get slotted in juvie for your first offence. Look,
the details on these things need to be sorted out. Clearly, there's going to be some cases, that require some special treatment. So, I'd want to look carefully at any sort of legislation that was presented. But in principle, I'm very supportive of raising the age of criminal liability with some sort of safeguards for those very, very rare cases where, we talk about with regards to criminals, you've got the mad, bad, and sad, right? Most of these kids in the 10 to 14-year-old age group, they're the sad group, right? They've got this terrible background and terrible support. There will be very, very rare cases of bad ones that we need to deal with. But I think that just lumping them all in like this, kids who haven't even got their adult teeth being put in the detention system, I think it's just crazy what we're doing.
What seems to be crazy, though, is doing nothing. What is crazy is doing nothing. So in Queensland, Labor can't have it both ways. They can't have a discussion about age of responsibility, but at the same time do nothing to get these kids off the street, to protect Queenslanders who are going about trying to live their lives safely in their homes, not have their cars stolen, not be able to get to work, really ruin people's lives. There's got to be some sort of intervention. Labor has been soft on crime. They've been soft on on providing any sort of accountability for these kids, and they will never get back on track. So, I think before they start having this conversation, can they not reverse all the poor decisions they've made? They've removed all the activities for kids, they've removed all the programs for juveniles, everything that was in place a few years ago, they've got rid of it all. And now they want to talk about, well, these kids aren't responsible. Well, there's no pathway for them to have any accountability at all. And that's what's out of control.